Well, we absolutely love AFLW here at Broad Radio. We also love women who are incredible leaders and carry with them stories of great resilience. And our next guest embodies all of those three things. We absolutely are overjoyed to welcome to Broad Radio. She is a philanthropist, a businesswoman, and was instrumental in creating AFLW. Susan Alberti, it's lovely to see you.
Thank you very much. It's lovely to be here.
So, Susan, this Saturday for the grand final in the AFLW, we've got Adelaide fronting up against Brisbane in what is very much echoes of the very first grand final that we saw in 2017. What have you seen in that time? What are the big moments of AFLW's development? What do you recall over the last 5 years?
There's so much that I've seen. I do recall going to that first grand final and wondering, is this really going to happen? I've waited so long to see women be given the opportunity to show what they can do, and that was incredibly emotional. But then, of course, the Bulldog girls won the grand final. And then I was in Adelaide for that grand final when I saw thousands and thousands of people coming into the ground and thinking, this has just built up so much momentum, AFLW football. And I remember looking at Nicole Livingston and saying, Nicole, I think you better open up that grandstand. We're going to have a stampede. And they kept coming and coming and coming, thousands and thousands. I couldn't believe it. But apart from the crowds and my attendance at those games, what I have seen, the evolution of women in AFL football, the standard of play, just the better coaching, the better facilities, the better everything. To me, it's so exciting every week to see the women improving week by week by week. And I sit back in awe and think, wow, and then I look at the men. I never like to compare because it's different games, it's women versus women. And I think our skills are incredible. When you think these women are part-time players, most of them have jobs, have children, families, studying, and look what they're able to produce each week. So for me, it's been a journey of over 50 years. I shouldn't really say that, but it has been more than 50 years for me. But to see women now given the opportunity that they should have been given many, many years ago, to see them just flourishing and just getting better each week, I can't express in words just how I feel.
Now, Susan, behind the barriers, throughout the 50 years there would have been barriers. What are some of the barriers that you've had to overcome in the world of AFLW?
Well, I can talk about my own experience. It goes back to when I was the age of 15 when I had to give up playing footy. I was a member of the cheer squad, the Western Bulldogs cheer squad. We used to play each Sunday against other teams in the cheer squad, and I can recall it was boys and girls, and boys at 15 are pretty tough. And my dad made me give up football, and again, he was a pretty tough guy. My dad was a policeman. And I didn't talk to him for 2 weeks because I always wanted to play footy. So I was a grump for 2 weeks. And actually, Dad was right. I was being belted up. But I never, ever got over that feeling. My brother was allowed to go on and do whatever he wanted. He went on and became an excellent umpire. He thinks he's a good umpire, but anyhow. My father was an umpire as well. And I had an umpiring family, but I always wanted to play footy. I loved football. I played all sports. But particularly VFL football was my great love. And it never left me until there was a time in my life where I was given an opportunity where I could truly make a tangible difference. I think the storybooks will tell and history books will tell that I was at a luncheon and I saw the women were on their knees ready to fold in AFL football, VFLW, if you want to call it that. And I remember they were about to fold and I thought, well, here's my opportunity. You've waited all these years, do something, make a difference. So I wrote them out a cheque, and then, of course, I kept that going for a number of years. And then I sponsored our girls, the Western Bulldogs, to go and play the game. And, of course, some wonderful person at Melbourne did something similar. And, of course, that was the exhibition match, and look what's happened ever since. But I do recall at my own, when I was on the board of the Bulldogs, they were not particularly interested in women's footy because when I asked for funding, I was told, well, what if we take the resources away from the men? I said, don't worry, I'll find sponsorship. Within a couple of weeks, we had $500,000. So other clubs have followed since. So it's a no-brainer.
It is a no-brainer. And we've seen, I mean, from that very first game at Icon Park that was a lockout, and hilariously, the men who seemed to be at the top of AFL were surprised by that. None of us in the crowd were. Shelley, and I believe, Shelley, you were there as a Carlton supporter. I was there as a Collingwood supporter. Yeah, we've seen the popularity grow and grow. It's just so exciting, and we're really indebted to you and all the people that have made this a reality, Susan. I wonder, that very first moment of being told you can't do something that you really are passionate about, I think all women have that moment that we remember where it was just, it smarts. It just hurts to be told, what? We can't do that. I wonder if that was the driver, and all this time, how many doors have you had slamming in your face when you suggested?
Just going back, I mean, I've been in the building industry for 45 years and I was the lone woman. So I've been used to working with men. So it's not been something new to me, but I'm a person that never takes no for an answer. If I believe in something, I'll just keep on going and going and going. Yes, I've had many doors slammed. I remember seeing the previous CEO and I think he thought I was some sort of nutcase when I walked in, and when I walked out of there I felt like I'd been to the school headmaster and smacked over the wrist for being a naughty girl. What do I know about women's football? Well, what don't I know about women's football? I've played the game, I've supported the women, and we've got some incredible talent out there. And when you look at the numbers now around the country, about 600,000, well, I'm not on my own, am I? I mean, there's so many other women who want to play the game, so lots of doors slammed, but I've been used to that. In the building industry, it's the toughest gig you could possibly be in building, having to deal with men every day of the week. But I've always remained true to myself. I've always remained a lady, and they've treated me accordingly. And if they don't like it, well, tough. I'll just keep on going, and I'll keep pushing, opening doors. They can be slammed as much as they want, but I'm very resilient. I grew calluses, I think, when I was about 15 on my hand.
So before we touch on the building industry, tell us about the Bulldogs and why you love them so much.
It's a very simple story. My father was stationed in the police force at North Melbourne, the blue and white. And this is a really strange story, but it's the truth. And I was 6 years old, and that was a long time ago. And I said to my brother, I don't like blue and white, and Dad wants us to barrack for the shin boners. And I never did as I was told. Oh, I did occasionally. And I said to him, how about we go for red, white and blue? And Richard and I, we sealed the deal when he was 7 and I was 6, and we barracked for the red, white and blue, which was Footscray. And that is the honest truth. I've never lived in the west of Melbourne. I have always lived in the east of Melbourne, and that was the start of my support of the Western Bulldogs. Red, white and blue.
Well, they're very fortunate for it, aren't they? Yeah. So speaking about your incredible influence in the building industry as well, Susan, I know that you are a patron for women in construction, and you've had an incredibly successful and long career as a leader in construction. What sorts of barriers did you come up against in your time? Because I know you started working side by side with your husband at a time when women weren't even allowed to have apply for bank loans, and And then since then, you picked up the pieces when your husband tragically died. So what sorts of things?
Yeah. I remember when he died, I had them circling, all the vultures were circling, particularly the banks. What would this woman know about building? What would she know about finance? I mean, I had 300 staff when I was thrust into that leadership role, which I'd never been trained for. I'd been the girl in the back office doing all the finances for years, but never actually on site and running the show. Plus, we also had 3 other businesses, and I had another 100 staff, so I had about 400 staff that I was looking after. So it was a very difficult time for me, but I just continued on the way I've always done in my life. I've focused on what the job at hand, and I had a lot of work that had to be completed. I knew it had to be done, otherwise I would have gone under, and I didn't want that to happen. And I know that my husband, he would have been the same if it had have happened to me. He would have continued on, which is what I did for about 10 years in the construction industry. I had to prove to myself that I could do this. I could do it on my own. I went into a bit of residential as well, but mainly our work was industrial and commercial, very large developments on our estate in the eastern suburbs of Melbourne. So it was just, I was learning on the job. It was tough. I had a lot of sickness around me in my family. It was very tough emotionally, but I've just had I knew I had to complete these jobs. And if I didn't do it, that would be the end of me and the end of these people that depended on me for their employment. So leadership, I learned about it very, very early on in my life, and it was something I was never really trained for. But I joined an organisation, the CEO Syndicate, and they were all men. They were the most remarkable men I have ever met, and they supported me along the road. I was able to go in there and talk openly and freely about my concerns about the business and the direction I was heading in, and they really were wonderful men to me, as were the men when I was at getting my building license, because I didn't have a license. I was surrounded by the most incredibly supportive men, and I was very good in the paper roll of things, and I was able to help a lot of them. They were migrants to this country, didn't speak a lot of English, and I'd learnt Italian. I'm not Italian. I was born in Australia to Australian parents, and I helped them with their paperwork, and they embraced me in the workshop, and those men were the most remarkable men I've ever met, and to this day I'm still very grateful to them. And I'm still friends with them. I'm still friends with a number of the CEO syndicate, although I don't go there anymore. I feel I can manage pretty much on my own now. And, so it's been quite a journey for me. It's been very tough. It was a male-dominated industry, and I had to deal with unions. My husband, all of a sudden, whenever we had to deal with unions, he did not speak any English. He had to go off. He played that card more than once. So I learned early on. Yeah, yes, Charlie.
Oh, beautiful. So what have you seen in changes in the gender equality in the construction industry, and what still needs to change?
Oh, a lot needs to change, Shelley. In the last 25 years, we've only seen 2% of trades in this country are women. 25 years has been the same. There are a lot of young girls out there who would like to be apprenticed and do the trades, but one, we've got a problem within the TAFE organisations where we don't have enough teachers. Also, there's a problem at the schools. A lot of counsellors have the parents come and talk about, well, what can their daughter do? And some of them are that way inclined, want to work with their hands, and it's seen as a sort of barrier. And unless you've got a university education, you're an absolute failure, which is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I didn't attend university. In the 60s, you were not encouraged. In fact, you were discouraged to go to university. My brother went on. Women in my age in the 60s would either do nursing, teaching, and even if you're a teacher and want to go off and get married, you had to stop working, or nursing. There are the options when I was growing up, whereas now young girls at school have got the options of doing anything, whether it be tertiary. I'm not knocking that. My daughter went to Melbourne University, but there are so many young girls who would like to do trades, but parents come in and it's suggested to them, oh, no, my daughter's not going to do that. Well, I think they need to change their way of thinking, that there are opportunities out there. Try and get a tradesperson in this country. Just try and get one tomorrow, for example. You cannot get them. We've got young women now in the trades, and that's why I'm so involved with Tradeswomen Australia and supporting them, because there's a pent-up demand out there, one for tradespeople and two, young women who want to take on and become apprentices. So we've got to provide the pathways, provide the amenities for them, which is happening with a lot of our larger building companies, not so much in the smaller ones, but it's changing very slowly. But for when I was in the industry back in the 60s, well, there were no women. I looked around, there wasn't a female apprentice anywhere. It has changed, but 25 years, 2%, not good enough. Needs to change.
And do we need somehow to instill in young girls and young women a sense of confidence when they walk into a space where they may be outnumbered by guys?
Absolutely. And that's what I do. I talk to them all the time when I go and visit schools and say, if this is when you wake up in the morning and this is what turns you on and makes you happy, you go and do it. I see, and this is no disrespect for university students. As I said, my daughter did a master's at Melbourne University, but a lot of our students come out of university with degrees but no jobs, and it's not what they really wanted to do. So we need to inform these young girls at school that there are so many opportunities out there, and you can have an incredibly successful career and life in a trade. And you can, be not only you'll be happy within yourself too, and you'll be doing something you really enjoy doing. So we need to instill into our young girls at a very early age, and I think, Shelley, you know this better than anyone with our children at school, they can achieve anything, they can do anything if they set their mind to it. And I know that's how, when I was younger, I suppose I was a bit different to most kids, and I came from a school of hard knocks, And to survive, I had to work very, very hard. It was not easy. So I guess sometimes we make it a bit too easy for our children, you know.
Yes, I can be guilty of that.
I'm trying to be diplomatic here.
We do.
And to survive, I had to do what I did and just take the hard knocks and just keep on going. And I guess you can see now it's flowed right throughout my life, whether the building, trade, sport, business. It's called fighting for survival and not giving up, ever giving up. And we need to instill in our children that they need to stay focused, do what really they enjoy doing. They don't have to have a degree to be successful. And some parents, I'm not saying all, live through their children. Well, that's really not what you should be doing. You should let your children grow. I mean, Shelley, you know this better than me. You're a teacher. I'm just a businesswoman. I know where I've come from, and I watch children, watch how they evolve. I watch the grandchildren. You know, I want them to be happy. I want them to be happy in whatever they choose in their lives, not because they've got 3 degrees or whatever. Just do what they want to do in their lives and be happy. Feel fulfilled.
Well,
passion is necessary, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, Shelley.
It really is. Susan, we can't let you go without mentioning in your story of resilience, of course, is the Susan Alberti Medical Research Foundation, which has raised, I believe, over $100 million. That's an unbelievable amount.
Twice that, 200 million plus.
Incredible. And you established that in honour of your only daughter, Danielle, who tragically died at 32.
No, I already had that established before she died. I was chair of a major organisation and an international one. And I wanted to make sure there was no middleman. I choose to fund all my overheads. That's my choice. Any dollar that I raise goes straight to whoever's made the, whoever I believe is the one that should be the recipient of the funding, whether it be diabetes, cancer, heart, whatever. And that's what I do every day of the week now. I visit laboratories, investigate medical research as to what's going on here and around the world. I lobby hard government for funding for medical research. More broadly now, not necessarily diabetes. It just happened to be that I'd already started my foundation because I didn't like the idea of a middleman and percentages going where I felt all the money could go straight to the source. So yes, I guess the continuation of my foundation, you could say, is in honour of Danielle, and I know she would have wanted me to continue my work, but it's something I've been doing now for 40 years, so it's innate. I love what I do. I love the people that I meet. I love putting organisations together that can, and I find it in time, many times, by putting these organisations together, they can have much more strength in their applications for funding, and then I'll come in behind them and support them. So, yeah, it's something I really enjoy doing, and I love making a difference.
Beautiful. What drives you every day, Susan?
Well, when you've been as sick as me, and I have been very close to death, I've been in hospital quite a few times, and I've been in intensive care for weeks. When I was lying in intensive, or actually prior to then when I had cancer and I was given a very slim chance of survival, I thought, well, I'm going to change my life if I want to live a little longer, because I was very unhealthy, very unfit, too busy worrying about everybody else, not worrying about myself. And then when I was rushed to hospital for open heart surgery with 5 blockages and in hospital for many weeks in intensive care, I made a decision that if I was given a chance to survive and get out of it, and I was not a very good, my kidneys had failed and I was just very sick, very, very sick. If I was given a chance to have another crack at life, I was going to do just that. And I did have another crack at life, and I'm still doing that. But if it wasn't for 4 incredible specialists, one being a woman who gave it to me very straight, that if I didn't change my life, I wouldn't be living much longer. And you asked me the question, what keeps me going? Well, I had too many things to do and to achieve, particularly medical research, when I saw Australia was at the cutting edge of so many new developments in cancer and diabetes. I knew I had to change my life, and I did. And the story goes, well, I've lost an incredible amount of weight, and I think Shelley may have seen that over the years. Lost an incredible amount of weight. I've now got more energy, more joy de vivre than I've ever had in my whole life. I love life. As you say, I said to you, I woke up at 4 o'clock this morning. I've got too much happening in my life. I'm not going to waste a moment. I'm going to keep on doing what I'm doing, so that when I do die, and we don't last forever, I'll leave a lasting legacy for this country, for our children, and for the whole of Australia. And that's all I need. I don't need a lot of thanks. I don't need a lot of recognition. That's just come along the way. I never sought it. Never sought recognition. I just wanted to make a difference. And when I look back now in retrospect over those 40 years, I think, boy, I can't believe. But the one thing that really I'm very happy about, satisfied, I guess you could say, 60% of our researchers in this country are women. And they were given a raw deal. They were not given the recognition that they should have been given. Well, that's something I've changed the attitude to, particularly at St Vincent's Institute. We now have a fund set up for women that can go off and have their families. Laboratory assistant comes in, looks after their work whilst they're on maternity leave. Then they come back, slot into the position. So that is something that I really feel very, very satisfied about, that women in medical research are now given that opportunity. It's following suit throughout other universities, and like Walter and Eliza and Monash, they're all doing the same. And so it should be. They shouldn't have to ask for this, but anyhow, we're providing this now for them, childcare at the Institute. We want our bright women to continue doing what they do best, still having their families. It was so hard for me. I didn't have any of that. I didn't have any superannuation, no maternity leave. I had nothing. But that was me in the 60s. It's changed now. So women in sport, women in business, women in science. So my greatest satisfaction has been to see women given opportunities they were not given back when I was in the 60s. So to me, it's very rewarding. That's all I need, just to see women given the opportunity.
Susan, I must say you have touched and impacted so many thousands of people's lives, and many people who might not even realise that you have actually impacted their life. But for me, the thing that I gained so much from you is your incredible resilience. And in the face of what must have been over your time, many different moments of extreme grief. And I think that women, to be a woman is to know what it is to have loss. So I just wonder, how do you pick up the pieces and keep going when you have faced such grief?
Well, I think, as I said before, it goes back to my childhood. It was a very tough childhood. When my very best friend was raped and murdered, and up that same path I used to go every night. And my father's particular night, it was a bit dark, and I was coming home from work a bit late, and he said, wait for me, and she didn't, and she took off and she was murdered. And I guess it sort of started from my childhood that I had to be tough, I had to be resilient, didn't necessarily turn the other cheek. My father taught me a lot of things about life, and some of the pitfalls, and I learned from a very early age what could be in front of me. And I guess it started from when I was a child, to be tough and resilient and not take no for an answer. And I'm not a quitter, and I don't ever take no for an answer. If I haven't got a solution for a problem, I'll go away and I'll think about it to see how I can come up with a solution for the problem that I've got. When you have the loss that I've had, I lost my mother, my father, my husband and my daughter, all within a space of 12 months. And I thought, I can't take this any longer. I'd lost my faith as well. Church didn't mean a thing to me, and nothing was of comfort to me. I lost my best friend, my daughter, who I adored. She was the most beautiful girl. She was smart. We both grew up by the time she was 18. We started to communicate. We were at one another's throats. She had diabetes. It was difficult for her. She was an achiever. Anything Danielle worked at, she knew if she worked at it, she'd be successful. Just like a mum, work at it and you'll be successful. And watching her deteriorate and then eventually dying in my arms, that really destroyed me. And I'd be lying if I said I wasn't in the back room crying my heart out. I just didn't do it in public. And then, of course, my husband being killed by that drug-affected driver, he was my best friend, and we were business partners. We were married for a long time. I'd learnt so much from him. He was such a teacher as well. So I really lost the two main people in my life, and I was then out there on my own, thrust into a position, as I said before, of leadership that I really had never been trained for, but I certainly learned very quickly because I had so many people looking to me for their livelihood. So I just couldn't give up. I just couldn't let those people down. And it took a while. I can assure you it took a while. And I still do cry, and I look at photos of my daughter and my husband and wonder where we would be today if we're all still together. And Danielle had so much she wanted to do in her life, and she didn't achieve it. But I know that she would be incredibly proud of her mother. Not long before she died, she wrote me a note. We were in New York, and apart from the story about, I'll tell you that in a moment, but she wrote me a note, and I never really knew how she thought about me. I knew we were close. And she said, Mum, she said, you're the most remarkable mother. You put up with so much. I just want you to know how much I love you. And this was under the door in a hotel. She left this note. And she'd just come out of hospital from having eye surgery, and her eyes were deteriorating, and to an artist. That is dreadful. And I came home and left her there because she couldn't fly, not realising how ill she was. I didn't know she was dying. She kept it from me. A couple of weeks before she died, she rang me and she said, Mum, have you written a book? She'd already asked me that when she was at university, and I said, oh, Danielle, they want to hear about me. And she said, Mum, there are a lot of young women here who'd love to hear about your life. Would really encourage them to really, push on with their lives and their work and their study. I said, yeah. I was never going to do it. And 2 weeks before she died, she rang me and she said, Mum, have you ever written that book? I said, no. She said, promise me one day you'll do it. And she said, and by the way, she said, Mum, you're a walking hypocrite. Have a look at yourself. You're on an advisory committee in diabetes and you're morbidly obese, blah, blah, blah. You know what? She was right. I didn't realise. I didn't want to acknowledge. I was too busy looking after everybody else. It was my daughter, 2 weeks before she died, that gave it to me. Really, it was very tough what she said to me. And I was a walking hypocrite. How could I tell other people what to do when I myself was not looking after myself? So you ask why I'm tough. You ask why I'm resilient. My daughter, she struggled till the day she died, and she had so much to look forward to. She was so talented, and yet I've been given another opportunity to continue on. So I'm not going to knock the chances I've been given. I'm going to continue doing it. I've always done, God willing, so long as I've got the strength, the resources and the wherewithal to do it. I'll keep on doing it. Not in Danielle's memory, but she was a super, super young lady.
Oh, Susan, we're so grateful to you for sharing so much of your story with us today. And this Saturday, when those girls run out onto the field for the AFLW Grand Final, what a glorious moment that is. And I'm sure that you gain such great satisfaction from that.
Oh, I'll be there. I'll be there. Don't you worry. I'll be there.
We
Me
must
too.
ask you, who's
Can't
your
wait.
tip? Who's your tip between Adelaide and Brisbane?
No, I don't like to tip the two teams because I love all the girls. I've got 600,000 young women out there that I love, and I just want them all to be successful. It's a difficult one. I think maybe Brisbane.
Okay, I
like
understand.
their coach, Craig Starcevich. I
like
remember
him too.
he's a really good coach. He was on the committee with me all those years ago, and we gave out the licenses, and I thought, oh, you're a cut above the rest. I really do like your strategy, and I think maybe Brisbane, maybe. But I don't. I just want them to come and draw. There you go.
Yeah.
I know it's good like a Bobby's play, but I can't help it. Yeah.
Well, Susan Alberti, thank you so much for your time today and for all that you have done for AFLW. It means so much to women and girls all around Australia.
I'm happy to do it, and I'll continue doing it. Thank you. Thanks, Jo. Thanks.
Thank you.